All right, welcome to the 5 a.m. grind. Horace, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How's it going with you?
It's good. It's good. McDonald's, if you want to sponsor us, do let us know. This is we're not sponsored by McDonald's right now. We paid for these coffees by ourselves, but if you're looking for a sponsor, hit us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do like your coffee a lot.
Yeah, we do like your coffee. How's everything going? How's business?
This is all right, man. It's
Yeah?
just these repeated lockdowns or stay-at-home orders is getting a bit too much.
Right.
But,
So we're under a third lockdown in Ontario.
yeah.
How's the real estate market?
Real estate market has been on fire. I think there's a lot of talks, at least in Ontario or across Canada, to legislate. I don't know if they did last time I checked, but they are thinking of increasing qualifying interest rates for buying houses and
I saw something
refinance.
like that. Yeah. Because our housing market, even for those of you who are watching this in the U.S., is absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
Absolutely on fire.
Yeah, and it's insane. And I think that, what I've seen is there's a lot of foreign investors cashing out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of that recently.
Interesting.
But outside of that, I mean, it's just, I wonder how future generations are going to afford anything because.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're part of this generation too,
Yeah.
millennials
Yeah.
as well, right? Affording houses is going to be a bit of an issue. We should probably dedicate a podcast to just
Yeah.
this. It'll be an interesting topic.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot to talk about
There
on
definitely is. Okay, so for this week's topic, I thought we'd cover the power of taking small steps.
that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the sub questions I wanted to cover today are: why is taking small steps in life important? Number 2, describe a personal situation where you've used small steps to be successful. Number 3, are there situations where taking a big step is important? And last but certainly not least, what is the relationship between compound growth and small steps? I'll backtrack a little bit. The reason why I chose this topic is because I recently read a book called Compound Growth by Darren Hardy. So Darren Hardy, for those of you who don't know, he's a bit like a Tony Robbins, so personal development, business coach, etc. And he talks about the benefit of compound growth in your life, such that by taking small steps towards learning something, acquiring a new skill set, eventually you master it in your life and you add a lot of value and create a lot of value.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to cover this particular topic. So I don't know. I've never asked Horace these particular questions, so it'll be interesting to get his take, and then you'll hear from me as well. So Horace, why is taking small steps in life important? Is it important at all to you?
For me,
Yeah,
I mean,
taking small steps.
Taking small steps, I would say that I divide it into two different scenarios. Because when you say taking small steps, you're implying big changes as well, and doing. There's a lot that you're kind of. The question is more loaded than.
It's true. It's true. And the reason why, maybe hold on before you go into it, I'll say this, and maybe it'll give you some food for thought as well. Small steps. This is a quote I found on Small Steps. Small steps help to minimize your risk while simultaneously increasing your odds of success. Right? The way I look at small steps, and I think this is what I really want to impart to our listeners and viewers, is that small steps, at least the way I've seen it, they de-risk a big decision you're about to make in your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when it comes to starting a new business, a new venture, etc., it's really tough to think about, I'm going to start something from scratch. That's a very big concept.
Yeah.
But if you break it down into little things and be like, I am going to start selling one product online. Let's say you're trying to start an e-commerce business, right? The goal of starting an e-commerce business is a very big one.
Yeah.
But if you just say, I'm going to sell, I don't know, paper cups on Amazon, that's a really small step towards building that huge e-commerce business, right? And I think that's why I think small steps are important. So I've basically answered the question.
Yeah.
But why don't you go? What do you think about that?
I think that you divide it basically in my life at least.
Yeah.
I think of the big decisions are decisions. So the big changes are associated with a mindset of deciding something, but execution is always small steps, right?
Right.
So I would never ever recommend this for anybody else, or do it myself, and say, like, you get up one morning and you say, hey, I want to start a business.
Yeah.
And right away you've invested like $2 million and you don't even know where it went.
Well, yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, and it's all relative, right? You could be a billionaire and you've started so many businesses and then you invest $2 million. It's a very small step, but I'm talking about my own stage.
Yeah.
And so it's like investing $2 million is a big decision. I would take small steps because in any big decision, the reason it's big is not necessarily because it's never been done before. Odds are it's been done, and it's probably been done plenty of times.
Yeah.
It's a big decision because you haven't done it before. And because you haven't done it before, there's a lot of unknown. And when you take small steps, you prevent yourself from being overwhelmed, and you slowly go through that learning that will increase your odds of success as you go through the entire process of whatever it may be.
Yeah. Because you're de-risking the whole
Yeah.
like decision and
Yeah.
situation and venture you're taking on. I guess going to our personal situations, I'll cover myself, and then maybe you want to do your situations too. Do you have a situation where you've sort of used small steps to be successful? Does something cross your mind when it comes to that?
I mean, like front of mind, like everything for me is just taking it one step at a time.
One step at a time.
I feel like even now, sometimes now I'll have like a lot of work and I'll get overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, there's a lot going on. Then I take a 5-minute break and I'm like, wait, all of this can be done. I just need to figure out what's the next thing I have to do right now.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, then what's the next? And then I get through the work, and pretty soon you realize, what the heck, that wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you build a monster in your mind, and it's not there.
It's so true. I think what I'm starting to realize as well as I'm getting older, it's a lot about just zooming out and then being like, you know what? It doesn't matter if because a lot of people, when it comes to success and building a business, right, they set timelines for themselves and they're like, oh, I want this to be big in a year, right? And I
Yeah.
want to have, like, I don't know, our podcast to have 1 million subscribers in 1 year. I think as you grow older, you understand that everybody's trajectory towards success is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in life, I have never seen it such that someone keeps doing something and eventually doesn't come across success. So it might take you a little longer and
Yeah.
your steps might be smaller, but eventually you'll be successful.
Yeah.
You just need to know that and
Yeah.
believe in it, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of big goals just need to be broken down into smaller steps
Yeah.
and just move. The idea behind life and just achieving your goals is to remember to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And even if you just do 2 things per day,
Yeah.
right, towards that goal, that's enough. You'll eventually get there.
Yeah, and I think to what you were saying before, small steps doesn't necessarily mean don't make audacious goals.
Yeah. No, make huge ones.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that the only thing, like the audacious goal, shouldn't make you do anything stupid. It may just change that first step.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it's like I want like to, instead of my business generating 100,000 in revenue, I want to generate 10 million in revenue in the first year. Perfectly fine, but now that shouldn't propel you to like do something ignorant and just like take on a huge mortgage or something that you can't afford for a very high risk speculative investment.
Yeah.
Right? It's more to get you to think a certain way. If I want 10 million, right? What is my business going to be looking like when it's at 10 million?
Yeah.
Right? And then you kind of backtrack and then you say, okay, well, if I want all of that, the first step is this.
Right.
And it's a small step always.
Yeah.
But it might be just different than if you're trying to have revenues of 100,000 or 1 million or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So audacious goals does not mean I guess what I'm trying to say at least is
Yep.
that your risk taking in the decisions you make shouldn't necessarily go up, but it recalibrates how you think and how you're approaching and where you're going.
Yeah.
And that first step might change a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like the way you started this because you said you take big goals and you sort of break them down. And I have a quote on this, and that is, sometimes we think we have to take big steps to start out, and this becomes a paralyzing thought, right? Because you think about, like you just said, I want a business that generates $1 million in revenue. And when you think about it, you just tend to sometimes you're like, how will I even get there?
Yeah.
And then you just sit and you do
Yeah.
nothing because it's such a big number. You have no idea how to get
Yeah.
there. But if you just break it down, take that million and be like, okay, so I need to close 10 clients this week or this month.
Yeah.
That is how you do it. That's
Yeah.
how you break it down. And then it sort of adds up. It's like, pushing a little snowball down the hill.
Yeah.
You push it, it's a small snowball, and then it becomes a really big ball,
Yeah.
right, when it's down the hill. I'm going to ask you this because you and I talk about some of this stuff, just goal setting in general. And I know you're a big fan of Grant Cardone, right? And he's all about that 10X mentality, right? It's not necessarily small steps.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, what do you think about his stuff? Because I believe, I mean, you follow him a lot more than I
Yeah.
do. His mentality is what? Set enormous goals and then what? Just
And-
try and achieve them?
And then achieve them. But first of all, one caveat, I appreciate a lot of the work he does.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's influenced me in terms of doing sales.
10X.
Yeah, and 10X, it makes sense because one of the concepts of the 10X thing is that if you want to just be big enough so you can hire a person or two, that's not helping anyone because once that person leaves, you're done.
Yeah.
You need a system. You need a machine that kind of figures itself out, and it will operate when you're not there. So his even with him, he talks about having audacious goals.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if you look at his stuff, one of the first things he says is like, "Yo, the first thing you got to do is show up,
Yeah.
or wherever you're working, be the best employee."
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Like you have to have work ethic and show up. That's the first thing he's always talking about. Even though he has his 10X millions or whatever, but it starts at a very small goal or
Yeah.
tangible goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that sense, I think it's across the board. You always have to have a small, reachable goal. Like for example, 10X, and 10X is basically, hey, you want to earn a company with 10 million? Okay, no, you got to think of something that's earning a revenue of 100 million.
Yeah.
Now, if you want for anyone, and I quickly want to break this down. If you want to do $100 million business and you haven't gotten anything,
Yeah.
right? You're all of a sudden, if you sit down, you're gonna be like, okay, wait, I need this marketing team, I need a sales team. Marketing has to flow into sales. We need to do this brand awareness. You're thinking of the funnel, how things are going down, how they're going into sales. Then you're looking at fulfillment. You're looking at product development, product refinement, customer satisfaction, all this other stuff you're looking at, and you're like, whoa, this is a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you go through all of that, I think that you'll very quickly realize if you are focusing on it in a methodical way in terms of actually realizing the goal and turning that fantasy into a reality, you realize, all right, well, we'll start off with perhaps me getting enough deals so that I can hire my first business development guy.
Yeah.
And then I can give them that stuff. So how do
Right.
I get that?
Yeah.
Right, because you're just your team for 100 million may be 100 or 1,000 people, but right now you only got you. So okay, so if your first goal is to hire somebody full time in business development or just account manager because
Yep.
you're doing the business development, right? What do you need to have that happen? Okay, well you need a website. Well, the website's not going to look the same as it does for 100 million, but that's fine. You got to
Yeah.
figure out what is it going to look like right now so you can get those first few deals so you can hire a first account manager,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking like that. And then as soon as you have that, then you're like, all right, I've got this. Now the website's got to change because we're increasing. So you're constantly looking forward, but you're not taking big steps in creating a website for $100 million company when you've got no revenue. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
You need to take that
yeah.
small step and be like, okay, let's make this more manageable, and this is going to grow with me.
Yeah, so I like that. So would you say that, for example, when you start out, for example, like you said a website, so let's just stick to that example, or a sales methodology and stuff like that. Because even when you first acquire your customers, I think any business in general tends to be, like an owner, if it's a founder that started a new startup, they tend to be in direct contact with their customers because they're just starting
You're
out,
making
right?
every decision.
Yeah, they make decisions, they get real-time feedback. As you grow bigger, obviously it becomes harder to get that. But I think as a business, you need to realize you're never going to get to that 100 million until you do the shit that needs to be done to get the first 10 customers.
I mean, that's what...
And it's very different than what you have to do to maintain like $100 million in revenue, right? You're not going to be the same business.
But it's
You're gonna be a bit different.
extremely important, though. 'Cause
What?
the thing is is, I mean, most people who want $100 million companies would not be able to run a $100 million company if it was given to them. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, and you like that point that you brought up is so strong, so relevant for anyone who's thinking of starting a $100 million company and it's got nothing.
Right.
You have to do the grit, right? Like grit work. You have to like develop that grit, right? You have to do the grunt work. Sorry.
Yeah.
And when you're going through that first stage of trying to figure out your customers, you're getting information. You're like, these are the type of customers I have. This is the type of person I need to hire.
Yeah.
Right? This is the type of mindset I need to cultivate here. This is sales. This is the type of business I have. This is the type of mindset and people I need to hire for this. Right? If you just went into a management role, which is what a lot of people think they can do, right? Oh, I'm just going to hire people. You don't know what you're hiring.
You don't know what you're doing.
We talked about this last podcast, right? But like, you could create a nice list, but that list has intangibles in it. That's where the meat and potatoes of the hiring stuff is, right? The hiring profile.
Yeah.
So you need to know that, because those traits are not expressible, but you're trying to express it through that job posting, and you only know it by going through it yourself, right? Like, it's like, this is the mindset. And so now when you see somebody, you're like, whoa, okay, this person here, this person there, I could use him in this part of my company.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're not just going out and you're kind of like, all right, well, I need a sales guy, and this is what sales guys are trained for, and that's it. Because every sales guy is different.
Yeah.
Every business needs a slightly different salesperson.
Interesting stuff. I'll say this as well. I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram or social media. There is that picture of two stick figures, two ladders. One ladder has big steps, like, it's a ladder with bigger intervals between the steps. And the other guy has another ladder. They're going to the same destination, but like the ladders are much closer together. Like the steps are much closer together. And you're like, who's going to like be able to get, to the top first? And you like to think the guy who's taking smaller steps, because he's taking smaller steps and making a lot of improvements very quickly, while the other guy, every step is really hard because it's a very big one. And okay, maybe that's not a good analogy because, it requires you to see the visual, and maybe we'll post it on the YouTube video. But I'll go to this when I run quite a bit. And in 2019, 2020, the marathon didn't happen. But in 2019, I ran my first half marathon. And one of the things that you learn about running, which is very counterintuitive to how you would think about running as a normal person who doesn't do it, is that when you run, you think that I need to take big steps to improve my pace, to go faster. I need to take big steps while I'm running. If you talk to running experts, they'll tell you the complete opposite. If you want to go faster, you just need to take smaller steps to just take them quicker. It's actually, that's how you build speed in running. It's not taking bigger steps, it's taking more smaller ones. Increasing something they call in running your cadence, right? It's so even in running as well, you want to go fast. It just requires you to move quicker and take smaller steps as opposed to taking very big ones. First of all, taking very big steps when you're running as well is hard on your joints. Smaller steps, much easier on your joints. So it's quite interesting. Life is kind of like that as well, if you just were to break it down and think about it.
And it's also, I think a lot of it has to do with just humbling yourself.
Yeah.
When you're starting something, you don't know it. You got to figure it out. And I see a lot of, and I know I'm focusing a lot of it on just entrepreneurship, but I guess that's what the podcast is about too.
Entrepreneurship and careers as well, I'd say.
Careers, or like any hobby as well, right? If you want like running or skiing or whatever it is that you want to, it's the same rules apply.
Any new skill set you want to learn.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people in the beginning, they have this huge ego. Like with businesses, I've seen this a lot where they just want to be a manager, right? Because they, in their minds, think somebody who owns a business doesn't have to do a lot of work or doesn't have to, like they're just telling people what to do. In reality, you're probably working the most, and you're working for the people working for you, apparently, right? Your employees, because you're making sure that you know how they're feeling, and you're making sure that they have everything to do their job correctly. And for that, you need to start from the bottom. You need to humble yourself, take those small steps, learn all that, or get all that information in and really understand it in a meaningful way before you grow into anything big. Because the faster, and you know what, this is also what I think I saw Chamath say it. He's like, companies that grow, like they're growing 100% over like every quarter, whatever. And then in 2 years, they're like went from 0 to $1 billion in revenue. he's like, the faster they go up in revenue, the faster they come down. And the ones that are like, if it takes them 10 years to make $1 billion, it's going to take them 10 years for you to bring them down.
To bring them down. Interesting.
Because it's like they've just laid that foundation, right? It's like,
Yeah.
And I think one of the examples he gave was Amazon. He's like, it's not, you can't just now, at this point in time at least, turn the lights off on Amazon. It's not going to be that easy.
No,
right?
no.
It's going to take just as long as it took to build that company to bring it back down.
To take it down. I guess, yeah, the small steps let you think about the long-term effects of how those small steps add up together to create this big goal, right? I think I want to leave this thought with one more quote, which says, a small step seems like a manageable thing. You can conceptualize it. You can imagine yourself doing it. Yeah. That's absolutely key, right? Because you can see, although you might not be able to see how you might build a $10 million company, you can see how you might get, I don't know, $5,000 in business, right? So start there. Start with that small step, because that's how it sort of adds up to get to that big goal. So moving on to the other question, the third question I had, which was, are there situations where taking a big step is important? I think I'll maybe while you're thinking about it, I'll say this. Sometimes the big step is just making that first decision, right? It's like, I am going to start a new business. I am going to pick up skiing. That is usually a pretty big step, right? That setting just that goal is a pretty big step. And then instead of saying, I'm going to pick up skiing and ski a black diamond, you say, no, I'm going to pick up skiing, and then I'm going to start with the bunny hill this many times, or whatever it is. Break it down. I think that big step sometimes needs to happen, and it usually is, it's a decision you're making about where to take your life, right? It's sort of that big step.
So when you stated that question, I initially went to the decision is when you have to make like a big decision.
Yeah.
But then what I started to think now, at least, is there ever a time where you have to go straight to the black diamond?
No, right. No. Do you? Is there? Is there?
I don't know. I think that, like, and I don't know.
Have you thrown yourself into something just because you've thought, this is how I'm going to learn?
Well, I mean, so when you're starting a business, you're always throwing yourself into things.
Yeah.
When you're doing any kind of business, you're like, all right, let me jump into this, and then I'll figure it out afterwards.
Actually, that's a good point. Right. That's actually true. So. Sometimes a client might come to you and they might say, like, let's say we're talking about law. They might be like, okay, so I need to file a patent, blah, 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 whatever it is. I mean, you're a lawyer, obviously. Yeah. You might have not worked in patents, but I think you would be of the view that, I'll take the engagement. I'll figure it out, though. I'll learn as I go along. Yeah. Right? I think sometimes you can definitely do that.
You could do that, but I wouldn't qualify that as a big step, because like a lot of in any business, a lot of it is just research, man. It's not like I find, at least, like everybody, no business knows everything, and they don't have
all the answers.
Yeah, and they're 100%. They're trying to find new frontiers to like increase their profitability or whatever it is. Big steps would be, I would say, like, quitting your job and then actually starting a business, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big decision, and then when you quit your job, that's a big step.
Big step, correct.
Sometimes I think quitting your job, and that's a huge step, you have to take it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fear that comes with it, and that's why it's a big step. Because when you decide, first is to make the decision, okay, I'm going to start my own thing. But then after you've made it, you look at your situation and you say, okay, well, do I have enough time or do I have enough downtime to be able to start something meaningful, and actually have it flourish, so that I don't have to quit my job? For a lot of people, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I would say for most people, it's not the case. I feel like sometimes if you want to start your own business, yes, you have to quit, and it's going to be scary. Because you're going to be like, whoa, I don't know where that money's coming from.
Right.
I don't know how I'm going to earn it.
Yeah.
It's extremely, extremely scary. It's extremely stressful.
Yeah.
It's extremely just like, you're like, whoa, I don't want to be in that position, especially if you have dependents. Right?
Yeah.
But if you are persistent about it, I feel like you take those small steps.
Yeah,
and you're
break it down.
constantly learning. I do feel that you can really prosper,
Yep.
and then you look back and you're like, whoa, I don't know why I was scared.
Yeah. I was thinking about, how families have a kid. When you have a kid,
Yeah.
there is nothing that you can do to prepare for it, right? There's no way you can break that stuff down,
Yeah.
right? You can't have half a kid. No, you go in it.
Yeah.
You go in it 100%,
Yeah.
right? So I would say in life, yeah, there are definitely some decisions and some moments in life where unfortunately it can't be broken down. You just have to go for it. Right? You can ask for advice, read books, blah, 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 but nothing prepares you for the real thing.
You know what I find interesting
Yeah.
is having a kid is a huge decision, right? Not only do you not know how to raise this thing, right? But now there's something that's like dependent on you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
They are dependent on you.
Correct.
Not for the rest of it if you raise them well.
Yeah, maybe they go on their own. Yeah.
But the first 18 years at least, right?
Yeah.
10, 18, 20 years, they're looking towards you, right? And especially in the beginning, where they're going to get their food from you, shelter from you. You're kind of in charge of their safety, of their protection. Huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge decision. Yet, people will have kids before they quit their job to start a business.
Yeah.
When the business thing, it's like, okay, well, if you fail, just go back to the job.
Yeah,
Find another job.
there's redundancies, there's backup, right?
So it's not like
you can't undo having a kid, right? There's no backspace or delete button on that.
And it's not like you can undo you
Control Z, Control Z.
You can actually undo the not having a job because you could try to find. It may not be easy.
Idea, yeah. I'm not gonna say it's easy.
The thing is okay, fine. Your worst nightmare comes true, and your business falls, and now you have to go get a job again.
Yeah.
You might not be going back to the same job, but you'll be going back to a similar job. You may not earn the same amount, but you're earning something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then slowly you can climb back up. You might go through a little bit of a tough time, but you're eating. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? That's good.
Yeah.
But you can't say, hey, I'm done with this kid. Take it back. I want a refund.
Yeah, you definitely can. You definitely can. And I think that's the thing. The small step stuff is very important, but it doesn't apply to all situations. And sometimes I think the best quality that I think human beings have is two things. Adaptability and being persevering through change in their life, right? Because those things, if you're adaptable and you can persevere through changing times in your life and just your career, etc., that makes you resilient. It makes you be able to handle anything that life throws at you, right? And like we said, hopefully most of the decisions you're making in your life, they can be undone quite easily. So if you're starting a new business, if it doesn't work out, you can go back to a new job. When you're starting a business as well, you can break down what you want to do for that business into little steps. But other decisions in life, like having a kid, you just go for it.
Yeah. Yes.
You just go for it. Anyways, so I think that was quite interesting on small steps and just the importance of breaking down big goals. Any final thoughts you wanted to leave on this particular topic?
I would say people who've developed a mastery at acquiring new skills.
Yeah.
And acquiring just new abilities and trying new things. One of the things that they all have in common is the ability to take small steps.
Yeah.
And take it one day at a time or one step at a time.
One step at a time.
And then just building from there.
Yeah. And I'll go back to that quote we got from Jim Steele a few weeks ago in that interview. And he said a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. And that's the thing, right? Small steps taken every day, when you zoom out and look at it over a period of 5 or 10 years, it adds up to a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
The key is every day. Not every day might be, good. Sometimes you take a step backwards, but as long as you're moving forward, that's what really matters.
Yep.
All right. So we'll leave it there.
Yep.
All right, guys. See you on the next podcast.
Take care, guys.
Take care.